Quick, what do you see? If you answered a bunch of PGA Tour pros, you'd be right. But you also don't need to look hard to see something else. We're talking about those logos. All those logos. As the old saying goes,
these guys are good.
But they're also good at helping to market and sell stuff. Everything from golf equipment and golf apparel to watches and consulting services. Companies don't just see golfers when they look at them, but walking, talking billboards. So how did all those logos get there? And how do they work? Let's examine. In the beginning, there was a king. Just not the one you might be expecting. We'll get into Arnold Palmer's prodigious record as a pitchman, but first we'll start with a man named Lou King. Lou held a variety of important jobs throughout his life, including being the executive director of the PGA of America at one point. But we're going to focus on his time as the senior vice president of marketing at an Iowa-based home appliance company called Amana. That's because in 1968, Lou had the brilliant idea of paying pro golfers to wear hats with Amana's logo. What did players get for this? The modest amount of $50 per tournament, along with health insurance. Now, Lou didn't just have a good idea, but he had good timing, because one of the first players to sign up in 1968 was Bob Golby, who wore the Amana hat on his way to winning the Masters that year. And a lot more people would probably remember that major moment in sports marketing, if not for that major being determined by Roberto DiVincenzo signing an incorrect scorecard. The golf world was very mixed about this new practice, though. In fact, TV networks often tried keeping these hats out of the shot, in part due to loyalty to their own sponsors, and also because they were perceived by many to be an eyesore. Legendary CBS producer Frank Chirkanian even admitted he would purposely avoid showing players wearing them altogether during broadcasts. But once Amana opened the door, others soon followed, and eventually there were too many logos to contain. Okay, now it's time to talk about that other king. The king, Arnold Palmer. Not only was the 7-time major champ one of the greatest golfers of all time, but he would revolutionize the role all athletes play in sports marketing. He didn't become a pioneer pitchman alone, though. As legend has it, a handshake deal with Mark McCormick in the fall of 1959 started one of the most profitable partnerships in history. With his good looks and charming personality, Palmer became a fixture in living rooms around the country for the next 5 decades. He hawked luxury cars, rental cars, motor oil, vodka, financial services, more luxury cars, you name it. When he died in 2016, he had represented nearly 50 different products and made nearly $1 billion. Pretty impressive considering his official career PGA Tour earnings amounted to less than $2 million. But perusing photos from Palmer's long career also offers a window into how much things have changed in terms of brand visibility. One of the most famous golf photos ever taken could also be mistaken for a cigarette ad. It's Palmer and Ben Hogan standing side by side at the 1966 Masters, but there's not a logo in sight. Palmer's own logo, a multicolored umbrella, would eventually start to show up on his shirts and hats, along with a few others, including Cadillac. But overall, he and his contemporaries maintained a much cleaner look than modern players, who look more and more like NASCAR drivers. And there's good reason for that. In addition to becoming generally more accepted, the PGA Tour's player endorsement policy allows golfers to sell space pretty much all over their clothes, golf bags, and even golf towels, with only a few regulations. There are some restrictions involving alcohol and gambling, and tobacco and marijuana deals are outlawed, but there's no limit to how many deals a player can have, and the tour has even gotten more lenient with the size and placement of these logos in recent years. According to the current endorsement policy, no logo should exceed 3 by 5 inches, not counting on the golf bag. That's up from 2 by 2 inches. And whereas there used to be a maximum of 5 deals, there's no limit now. However, there are 7 specific spots where logos can be placed on the torso. These are the right and left breast, the right and left sleeve, the right and left collar, and the area just below the collar on the back of the shirt, which is apparently called the yoke. There are also plenty of ways companies measure their return on investment with these endorsement deals. Here's Adidas Golf president Jeff Leinhart, whose long career also includes being at Nike in 1996 when it signed a young up-and-comer named Tiger Woods.
First-hand ROI would be things like showing up in a piece of apparel or a certain footwear on a weekend, and then having it sell out the next day on e-com. And those are the things that we can see and measure, and we certainly know that there's a return. Also, depending on how they performed and how we've used the content that we have with them, just the engagement with those social media posts and other things, says a lot about that athlete and how they're connecting with the core consumer that we're trying to get be connected with.
So which are the most valuable parts of a golfer's setup? Let's start with the hat, which is like the oceanfront property of the bunch. In fact, the hat is so visible that it can be divided into 4 sections: the front, back, and both sides. Obviously, the front is the prime space though, and depending on the deal, the company may want ownership of the entire headwear. Next would be the chest area, followed by the front sleeve. So the left sleeve for a righty and the right sleeve for a lefty, because that gets seen more on TV. Then there's the other sleeve, then the 2 collar placements, and then the yoke. Last are the shoes, which are not seen as much on TV. Also, they're usually part of a ball shoe glove combo deal. Of course, the value of these deals has a wide range depending on the player. A star commands top dollar, while a Korn Ferry Tour Pro might be happy to just get free equipment and clothes. Players and sponsors keep these terms secret, but as a general rule, star players command at least $1 million per year for hat space. Shirt deals typically go for much less, especially when a player has multiple logos on his torso. That's usually a sign he doesn't have a major clothing deal. It's been reported that Justin Rose receives as much as $5 million for wearing that Morgan Stanley hat. So yeah, that's some pretty valuable real estate. But not surprisingly, the companies can get great value from that as well. As Brian Harman cruised to the Claret Jug at the 2023 Open Championship, there was plenty of chatter about his Megacorp hat. Megacorp's director of marketing says the company's Google Analytics profile increased by 5,000% during the tournament. In other words, whatever Megacorp is paying Harman, he'll probably be asking for a raise when his contract is up. Actually, he likely got one automatically through incentives that players have in their deals for everything from winning a major to keeping their tour card. Those usually aren't straight up bonuses, but rather increases to a pro's base salary for the remainder of his deal. That can work out to big money for players, but these incentives are good for the companies as well. Because once a player gets that pay bump, he's going to become more loyal to that brand and less likely to leave for another where he might have to start with a deal structured around a lower base pay. As one agent told us, it's like a golden handcuff. That being said, certain accomplishments can also give a player the right to opt out of a contract to seek a better deal. Hey, you've got to strike while the iron's hot. So it pays to have a good agent in your corner. Not that cashing in doesn't have its cons. We've seen plenty of major champs change equipment following breakthrough wins and never quite be the same. With prize money as much as it is today, sometimes it pays off a lot more to be comfortable than to add one more endorsement deal. Brands don't just get exposure from their athletes for their money. Most endorsement deals include a certain amount of time, up to 3 to 4 days for major deals, throughout the year that can be used for things like shooting commercials, creating other content, testing product, cocktail party meet and greets, or playing golf with clients. And some guys certainly give you more bang for your buck. Phil Mickelson, for instance, has always had a reputation for having that Arnold Palmer magic touch in corporate outings. Arnold Palmer and Lou King may have been 2 of the sparks for this sponsorship explosion, but even they wouldn't believe how big it's gotten. In 2023, for instance, Jon Rahm earned $25 million off the course, a figure that should only go up following his Masters win that April. Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes, on track to be arguably the greatest quarterback in the biggest sport in the country by far, made $20 million in endorsements. And Rahm's $25 million pales in comparison to what Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson were pulling in during their peaks. How is that possible? Well, while pro golf is relatively a niche sport in the United States, its players have some major advantages over the athletes in major team sports like football, basketball, and baseball. For one, PGA Tour pros are independent contractors. They don't have to wear a team uniform that doesn't allow them to seek endorsement deals. Then there's the potential visibility. Golf tournaments typically draw lower ratings than those other sports, but think about all the airtime a leader on Sunday gets, and think about how much time a star and all those logos are shown over the course of 4 days. And finally, it's not just about how many people are watching, but who is watching. Marketing studies consistently show golf audiences are relatively affluent. In other words, companies know their logos are being seen by eyeballs with deep pockets, which allows companies pitching more expensive products and services. There's a reason why you see so many commercials for things like luxury cars and watches and financial services and consulting companies during golf broadcasts. Not that there aren't more lower brow deals out there as well. Think John Daly and Hooters or Jason Duffner and Dude Wipes. It's no surprise that the game's biggest stars, from the King to the Golden Bear to the Shark and to, of course, Tiger, have been the biggest endorsement earners as well. When Woods turned pro, he famously uttered the words,
I guess, hello world, huh?
And he had already inked a 5-year, $40 million deal with Nike, which at the time was the richest endorsement deal ever for an athlete. This was before he even hit his first shot as a pro. And that money only went up. Woods would sign 3 more extensions with the apparel giant, which also used Tiger to get into the equipment industry before shutting that down in 2016. Those subsequent deals reportedly earned Tiger $20 million plus per year, and he became the first athlete to crack $1 billion in earnings back in 2010. But in January of 2023, Woods announced he and Nike were parting ways after a nearly 3-decade partnership that was highly profitable for both parties. When Woods next played, gone were the swoosh and TW logos fans were used to seeing, as he wore a new lifestyle brand created by his equipment sponsor TaylorMade called Sunday Red, a nod to his trademark shirt color choice for final rounds. The Tiger and Nike split marked the end of one of the great sports marketing partnerships of all time, and served as the latest reminder that nothing lasts forever. But if we've learned anything from Woods and other pro golfers, there will be a lot more endorsement deals and logos to come.